Everyone, the Litchfield Budget Committee is meeting tonight. We just concluded our budget hearing, and tonight we have a special meeting where we're going to be voting on to recommend or not recommend school warrant articles 2 through 9. So I'm going to start. I'm going to read the article. I'll entertain a motion to recommend. We'll have discussion. We'll vote, and we'll do that for each of the articles 2 through 9. We're going to start with Article 2. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget, posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote at the first session for the purposes set forth herein, totaling $26,243,939. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $26,032,315, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of Litchfield School District or by law, or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 4013, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Estimated tax impact is a reduction of 19 cents. The default estimated tax impact is a reduction of 36 cents. Do I have a motion to recommend?
Recommend.
A motion by Mr. Cutter, second by Mr. Burke. Any additional discussion? Any discussion this evening? All right, seeing none, do a roll call vote. This is totally throwing me off because we're not in order. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Cutter.
Yes.
Mr. Barca.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
No.
Mr. Leary.
No.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion passes 7-0. It's Article 2. Next, we have Article 3. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Litchfield School District and the Litchfield Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level over those paid in the prior fiscal year. Year 2024-25, estimated increase is $679,707. Year 2025-26, estimated increase is $634,719. And further to raise and appropriate the sum of $679,707 for fiscal year 2025, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Estimated tax impact is 56 cents. Do I have a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Motion by Mr. Burke, second by Mr. Cutter. Discussion.
This is a really important one, right? This is supporting our teachers. This is a responsible contract at 5% for the first year, 4.75% for the second year. If you look at all of our surrounding towns, including Merrimack, that was just recently in the news, they're at an impasse over a 19.75% increase, right? Having a 5% increase this year is responsible given the inflationary costs, and I think it's a good contract for the district.
Question. Is that 5% on top of the step increase? So it's really an 8% increase?
Correct.
Or is
Step
it,
increases are still applicable.
so it's not a 5%? So a person will not experience a 5% raise, they'll experience something quite a bit larger than that.
Well,
Like the
every
police
year.
contract, Jerry.
The police contract was paid for in part by a significant reduction in health insurance
Just like the
benefits.
teachers did a few years ago, Jerry.
I'm going to have to disagree with you respectfully.
Step increases happen every year, right? There's no difference.
So, but don't tell me it's a 5% raise.
But
It's
that's
not.
what the
What
contract is. though.
percentage of our teachers are actually on the top step, though? Probably a good chunk.
56% can't.
Yeah, thank you.
56% on the top
Receive a
step.
step increase.
56% that would not receive a step increase. Thank you. Any additional discussion?
I think it's a great contract for the teachers. I think the last two, they kind of took it on the chin, so I think this is about time they get their.
Thank you.
I was actually gonna say I'm very much likely to support it, and how I feel in the next 20 seconds will make a difference. But I appreciate that it's a 2-year contract, so as opposed to 3, because I do think we made progress on the town side towards reducing various parts of the health insurance and other benefits to be more fiscally responsible to the taxpayers. We had a desired trend and trajectory for that at the school side. We've stalled out. I'd like to see that continue. So for while all right, I'll talk to myself into supporting it for 2 years, but I'd like to see continued movement on restoring a more equitable distribution between the taxpayers and the teachers.
Any additional discussion?
We should have her vote. Go to her first. Yeah.
I'm going to go in the same order. Don't mess me up. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
No.
Mr. Cutter.
Absolutely yes.
Mr. Barca.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Motion carries 8-1-0 to recommend Article 3, the Budget Committee. We do not vote on Article 4, which is the one for the special meeting. Article 5, shall the Litchfield School District vote to approve the cost items included in an agreement to modify the 2022 to 2025 collective bargaining agreement reached between the Litchfield School District and the Litchfield Support Staff Association, which calls for the following increases in salary and benefits at current staffing levels over the amount that we paid under the existing contract. Year 23-24, which appropriation is already in the FY 23-24 budget, has an estimated increase of $170,951. Year 24-25 has an estimated increase of $279,103. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $279,103 for fiscal year 24-25, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Estimated tax impact is 23 cents. Do I have a motion to recommend?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cutter. Do I have a second? I didn't hear.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barca. Discussion.
Also critically important to be able to continue to hire into these critical positions and to retain in these critical positions. As highlighted at the last several meetings, we have over 30 positions that are impacted at the LSSA level that we cannot fill, right? This is yet again another example of a responsible contract, putting hands in the money of those that are doing the hard work anyways, and using, at least for the retroactive this year part of it, using funds that are already in our budget that's from unassigned positions and using that money to pay those individuals.
So I'd like to make a comment and an analogy at the same time. A couple of years ago, I strongly suggested that this type of action happen, knowing that we could not retain help whatsoever. We're losing help, and we're still losing help. And that's the reason why the schools went to the LSSA to do something for them to ratify. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw a business and a sports analogy out there. It's done daily. Okay, it's probably done in Derek and your kind of business also. It's like, all of a sudden you have an IT person who you can't afford to lose. You go back, he has a contract, you're gonna change his contract. It happens to sports people all the time. It happens to business people all the time. You have not necessarily CEOs, but people that just under the CEO. You wanna retain the best help. They're under contract. Sometimes you have to make that kind of adjustment. So to say that they're under contract and it should be like they should work out their contract, times change. From when they signed that contract a couple of years ago to where it is right now, the health situation it's dire. I mean, you saw, right, Mr. Cutter presented us with a list. It was so extensive, he didn't like read them all off, just simply said, X amount of openings. And that's why I think it's imperative for the schools to like operate, to have.
I'd add that too, that the majority of the folks in those positions aren't even in the union. Like, they didn't approve that contract. Like, they go to work every day, they get paid, and they're happy to be serving their kids. They're not part of the union. It is what it is.
Right. So here's the thing. I think that since our job is to represent the taxpayers and those who'd like to advocate for schools to for a different position, I'm not happy that we opened up an existing contract. I feel that it sets a precedent and an expectation potentially. I don't like what we did. That said, I understand where we are financially when you look at the postings at, say, Hannaford or Dunkin' Donuts. I get it. I don't like the precedent. And I think that as we represent the taxpayers as a whole, we need to be aware of that. So I will vote yes. I'm not happy about the precedent. And I think we have to be very careful going forward. That if we have a contract that people signed, we complete that contract, and then we address it the next time.
Any additional discussion?
I see this as a resource allocation issue. As I mentioned in the last meeting, I don't think that the school board or the administration have really gone through and taken examination of if 4 positions in a particular role are really necessary. I do agree that people should be able to get paid at a higher wage, especially those that are performing. I don't see an introspection of perhaps eliminating one position and then using that money to increase the wages of the rest that are in that department. That's my biggest issue with this, is that I need to see at least an attempt in order to uncover all possibilities before just jumping to increasing the contract number.
Any additional?
Last comment that I have, part of this resource issue is also due to actions last year of eliminating some administrative staff in order to get the budget where they wanted it to be. So, for example, in the LMS and CHS office, the administration eliminated receptionists and basically put those people into a position where they had to work to cover 3 jobs with 2 people. So to then turn around and have the taxpayers pay for that because you went ahead and self-inflicted a wound, I don't agree with that.
Well, and then there's also it's not necessarily an only Litchfield thing, right? There's resources are short across the country. So whether or not this is going to solve our problem, I call that into question. That said, again, I understand competing with local jobs, but I don't think that we should go in there saying, if we raise our rates, all of a sudden we're going to solve our problem. I don't think that's the case. That doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. I just don't think that's the right pitch.
Any additional discussion? I'll just add my comment and then we can vote. I agree with the idea of, I'm not a fan of opening up contracts. Mr. Burke's analogy was spot on. I don't want it to be a precedent that we do. That being said, this is a dire need. And I do see, my take on this, when this contract was last negotiated, competing jobs were not at the scale that they are now. And I think we have had more open positions become available. The school board was trying to solve a problem there, and this was the path they took to choose to try to solve that. I see it as an opportunity to try to solve a problem, not something that becomes precedence. Hopefully something that's not become precedence. See, I'm a big believer in fulfilling your full contract obligation. I see this as a creative solution to a problem that they did not anticipate 2-3 years ago. All right, so with that, we'll take a vote. We have a motion to recommend. Mr. Taylor.
No.
Mr. Hayes.
I'm a no.
Mr. Cutter.
Yes.
Mr. Barkin.
Abstain.
Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
No.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion to recommend by the Budget Committee by a vote of 5-3-1. Article 6 we will not vote on because it has no dollars associated with it. 3 more to go. Article 7, shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $178,756 to be added to the employee benefits established in 2022 for the purpose of funding the payment of negotiated employee benefits, including but not limited to health insurance reimbursements, changes in coverage or policies chosen by employees, severance benefits, and such other benefits as are from time to time negotiated and become contractual obligations of the district. This sum to come from the June 30 fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year, with no additional amount raised from taxation. Estimated tax impact $0.00. Do I have a motion to recommend? I have a motion by Ms. Douglas. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Burke. Discussion.
I think this is a very prudent choice to set aside money that is allocated for specific people who have chosen to not retire this year. So rather than continuing the old trend of paying for that same amount 3 years in a row. So I like that we are setting it aside so that all we need to really put forward in the future is the difference. So I appreciate the fiscal responsibility associated with this one.
You like this precedent, huh?
This was my idea. Of course I like it.
Any additional discussion?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea too. The town has been trying to tackle this as well for a number of years, and we're kind of following the suit a little bit. And so I think this is a very good warrant article. I commend the school for doing it.
Any additional discussion? Call a vote. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Cutter?
Yes.
Mr. Barka?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion to recommend by the Budget Committee by a vote of 9-0-0. Article 8. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate 50% of the fund balance remaining after Article 7 is funded, up to a sum of $125,000 to be added to the Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, established in 2005 for the purpose of funding school capital improvements, building maintenance, and repairs in the Litchfield School District, with said funds to come from the June 30 fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year, with no additional amount to be raised from taxation. Estimated tax impact $0.00. Do I have a motion to recommend?
So made.
Motion by Mr. Hayes. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Leary. Discussion.
Quick question as to how much is in the current fund again?
This is the building and repairs,
Yes.
233,518.
And did we actually come up with an analysis of what that number should be? Or are we still sticking
The
to
school
round
board
numbers?
has not met yet to talk about that.
So then, without knowing where we're going and why, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable adding more money to it.
I think this is one that you need to fund at a fairly high level. I think if you lose a roof on a building or a septic system, that's gonna cost you a ton of money.
I agree, but we also found that it could be used for other things.
That's true. We have to trust them, honestly, keep it there, but
Any additional discussion?
it's a good way to go.
Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Cutter?
Yes.
Mr. Barca?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
I am going to vote yes because I know how expensive some equipment is. I'm not voting yes because I'm comfortable with it, but yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
I am a yes. Motion to recommend by the Budget Committee by a vote of 9-0-0. Last warrant article for the evening, Article 9. Shall the Litchfield School District vote to raise and appropriate 50% of the fund balance remaining after Article 7 is funded up to a sum of $125,000 to be added to the Capital Improvements Expendable Trust Fund established in 2020 for the purpose of funding the study, planning, and cost of new construction or renovation of the existing facilities in the Litchfield School District, with said funds to come from the June 30 fund balance available for transfer on July 1 of this year with no additional amount to be raised from taxation. Estimated tax impact $0.00. Do I have a motion to recommend?
Motion recommend.
Motion by Mr. Burke. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leary.
Same question. How much is
Discussion.
currently in that one?
253,877.
And are there any plans that so we've addressed a lot with LMS. We have a GMS bond on the warrant. Are there other projects on the near horizon for which this would apply?
It could go towards the parking lot at the middle school, gym floor at the middle school, HVAC work here. So multiple projects.
HVAC work here wasn't done with COVID money, right?
Some of it was done with COVID money, but the boiler's still the same age.
Right, so I would anticipate that those design costs for, say, a floor or a parking lot would be included with the associated warrant article, so I don't know that I feel that this is necessary and is actually approaching redundant.
Well, an LMS floor would not be part of the.
Well, you wouldn't, no, it'd be a warrant article for replacement. The size of that item would be its own warrant article. Cost should be included there. This warrant article has been sold as GMS. If we're addressing GMS in a warrant article, separate warrant article for a bond, this is approaching redundant.
And if it fails?
Then wow.
I think we need to fund this through
Then contingent.
existing funds in case it does fail.
Or how,
Because no matter what, if this bond, even if this bond fails,
Mhm.
something needs to be done about the elementary school.
and if,
Whether it's renovation,
okay,
built, and if we can use funds that we've already raised to avoid raising them in the future, I think we should.
then I'd like to see wording that's contingent upon, if this funded contingent upon something else, because if by somehow the bond passes and you fund this, well, now you're redundant. If it is in case it fails, then let's include that wording that this money will only be raised if we have to pursue other options for GMS.
Additional discussion.
Again, this school's 20 years old. It's gonna have some issues. I think the money needs to be in the account to cover that. We don't want an afterthought going back to the taxpayers asking for money.
But that's what the other fund is for.
I appreciate Ms. Douglas bringing this as a discussion, and I agree with Ms. Stevens on this in the sense that if the bond doesn't pass, I think the majority of us agree something has to be done at GMS from a renovation standpoint, and this money, along with what's in there, would allow for that work to start should the bond fail.
If the bond does pass, some of this funds could also be used towards that.
I don't know the answer to that question. You know,
Can I say something, or is that not allowed right now? You decide. I'm totally fine either way.
was there a specific question you wanted to ask that someone from the school could respond to?
Yeah, if the bond does pass, could funds from this fund be used to pay towards that bond? I don't know the answer to that, Doug.
Towards the bond?
I don't think so.
I think
Towards
it's
towards the
project.
project.
The project, but
So
not-
to even offset, so we could avoid even bonding some of that money,
We can use it to reduce it.
reduce the amount of bond.
Right, you
So-
could buy furniture with it, you know what I mean, and just not bond that.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're still
That's what these
saving
additional
towards
6 million is going to be.
a necessary project.
You are.
But even if this passes, there is still 2 years until this is operational. There still could be many things that go wrong in that building in
Absolutely.
2026.
Correct.
So then also,
Okay, but-
we're reusing part of that 253,000 for architecture work, which is going on, as well as civil engineering, which will be happening to explore the land that's at GMS or right beside it. So although we have 253,000 in it now, that will be reduced this year.
Mr. Taylor.
So a couple comments have been made about if something goes wrong. Again, this is where we get into danger around the LMS project. This is not a fund to fix things that are wrong. We already have a fund to fix things that are wrong. This is for capital improvement.
To me, you
So
are adding.
this is not a fund for if something breaks at GMS,
That's
if the bond fails.
Yeah, to me, you're adding the money in case, if the bond fails
Yeah.
for the elementary school, it leaves us money to work, depending on how much the bond fails by, it might be renovation. It leaves us money to start moving in that direction.
So then if the bond fails, then why don't we say subject to,
It's too late now.
well,
They already wrote the warrant.
they can adjust it.
I also think that fund could be applied to projects here in this building that we're in right now.
What capital improvements do we have that are on the,
There's things in the plan. There's like a multi-million-dollar green energy project in the plan here for like 2025, I think.
oh, good God.
But I mean, that's what this fund is for planning in.
Any additional
Those costs
discussion
would be built
on
into the
this
warrant article.
particular warrant article?
I think it's redundant.
All right, seeing none, roll call vote. Mr. Taylor?
No.
Mr. Hayes?
No.
Mr. Cutter?
Yes.
Mr. Barca?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
No.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Motion to recommend by the Budget Committee by a vote of 6-3-0. That concludes our business for this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Motion by Ms. Douglas, second by Mr. Hayes. Just a reminder to everyone who's still up watching with us, the Budget Committee will meet 2 weeks from tonight on Thursday, January 25th, where we will discuss and vote to recommend or not recommend the last remaining school article, which is Article 1.
There are no member comments this evening, Mr. Chairman?
Anyone want to rescind their motion?
And as a show of good faith, I would be willing to walk mine back.
Motion to adjourn has been rescinded.
Well, you have to.
Member comments?
So back to Article 2 for a moment, right? I understood the vote and 2 members voted negative to that article. Did I hear that right?
I know I did.
What are you saying?
Article 2?
Yeah, 7-2-0.
I'm just really curious what went wrong in the review process by the Budget Committee to not earn your vote. What could have changed?
Well, I'm pretty sure I recommended reductions that were, probably similar vote failed. I don't believe that we should be having I don't believe we should be turning our food program from self-funded to not self-funded without taxpayer input. I'm pretty sure there are other areas where I felt it could be reduced. So I am actually rather confident that that there is fluff in the default in my opinion, that every year we hear that we're tight budget, we're tight budget, we're tight budget. We're not going to have enough money at the end. How much did we have this year? Almost over $1 million. So I'm pretty confident that the default budget will
With 800,000 in unfilled positions, just.
No, okay.
The difference between the operating and the default is $211,000.
I am confident that we can operate on that delta and still provide all the needs of the students. So to me, it's a fair trade-off between constantly going to the taxpayers, there's a lot of big asks on this warrant, on this March warrant. I think it's an area where we can at least tell the taxpayers, you know what? This is one area where we're gonna work with you. Going to the taxpayer first should not always be the result. The school needs to be a willing partner in the discussion and make tough choices.
And I think we did.
I think there were more that could have been made, which is why I voted no.
Any additional member input this evening? Seeing none?
Thank you for allowing that comment, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Seeing none, I'll re-entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made again.
Motion by Ms. Douglas, second by Mr. Hayes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries 900. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody.